favorite book is Ibiza. It's a thriller about a woman who's discovering her past at the island Ibiza, and she discovers all kind of mysteries. It's kind of exciting. So.
My favorite book is The Culture Map from Aaron Meyer. It's a book decoding the world in managing styles, describing different cultures and how they interact with each other. So the Chinese culture with the French culture, and maybe the Canadian culture with the Russian culture, on levels on hierarchy or planning and strategies, which differs in the world. And within a world that's interacting more and more together, and globalization, it's becoming more and more important, I think, to know how to cooperate within businesses.
Is there something that you've learned from the book, or perhaps maybe inspired you in your daily life?
Well, it inspired me to always appreciate your best, I guess. So.
Right. Can you maybe further elaborate on that?
Well, she's kind of scared of her past because some terrible things happen, but she learned to embrace it, and I think she learned a lot of that. So I guess it's important to always embrace it.
So would you recommend the book to others?
Yeah, I would. But I like a thriller, so I don't know if a lot of people do.
I think it's quite interesting how to communicate with others, and how to see that something that is not normal in your culture can be normal in other one's culture. For example, that in China, going to your bike to your work is not normal because you're a low in hierarchy. But in the Netherlands, it's quite a plain hierarchy. It's more level, horizontal. So you see Mark Rutte, the president of the Netherlands, is going to work on his bike, which creates a more equal surface for the people in the Netherlands.
My favorite book is A Midnight Library. It's about a girl who doesn't want to live anymore, and she tries to end her life. And just before she passes away, and when she's in that stage between life and death, she finds herself in a library, and every book in that library are all the possible lives she could have lived. So with every decision, the concept is that with every decision you make, you get a different life. And she proceeds throughout the book to read these different books and experience these different lives. It's very good.
So would you recommend the book as well to others?
Well, it differs. I think for me it's quite interesting. I study public administration, so I think for me it's quite interesting, but I guess it's not for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the book taught me to seize the moment. I know that sounds very cheesy, but really that you could have so many different lives and so many different possibilities, but ultimately only live one. So the idea is that you just make the most of it and you enjoy it as much as you can. And I've really been applying that this past year. It's been great.
My favorite book is All the Light We Cannot See. It's about a French girl and a German boy during the Second World War. And the French girl has to flee her country, and the German boy gets involved with the Hitlerjugend. And at the start of the story the storylines aren't really connected, but they get closer together as the story progresses. Yeah, I guess what I learned is that even though people might belong to a certain group, in the end, people are still all the same.
Would you recommend the book to others?
100%. It's a thin book, it's easy to read, the language is accessible, and they talk about different philosophies throughout the book as well, so it's a really good introduction for people who are interested in philosophy as well.
Yeah, it's really beautifully written, and it's not very difficult to read, so I would recommend reading it. Yeah.
Een Schitterend Gebrek by Arthur Chapin, which is translated into A Beautiful Flaw. It is about a girl, I think it's in the 1600s, 1700s, and she falls in love with a boy who visits her farm, and he goes to travel, and they get engaged. And when he comes back, she had a disease which turned her entire appearance for the worse, and she disappears and leaves him, and well, it's tragedy. And later they find each other again, but she built her own life. So yeah, that's kind of the storyline.
My favorite book would be Lord of the Flies. It's about a group of boarding school boys who crash in a plane, and then they're stranded on this island without any other people. So they have to manage with each other, and then the story is just about human nature, and well, it's basically a metaphor society, which I think is very interesting.
Is there something that you've learned from the book, or perhaps maybe inspired you to do in your daily life?
I think that real beauty comes from within and not from the outside, and love comes from within and not how you look like outside.
Not necessarily one thing, but I mean the message of the book is, well, I wouldn't say it now because it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's inspiring, I think. It is confrontational.
So would you recommend the book to others?
Yeah, but it's in almost everybody's school curriculum already, so.
Okay.
My favorite book is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. The story follows 4 sisters in America in the 1900s. They live with their mother and their father has gone off to war. And basically every chapter there's a new story about what's going on in their everyday lives and how they learn from their mistakes during that day. And basically every chapter has a moral of the story, and it's in the end it's all about our family just always able to forgive each other, and I think it's really beautiful. My favorite book is The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. Well, the story, it's about a guy who comes into this world of a lot of prestigious parties and rich people, and he himself does not originate from such a space, so it's very new, but he also kind of sees through it. So through all the prestigious parties and the richness, there's a lot of betrayal and drama and intrigue. So he kind of sees through that, so it's really interesting to see it from that perspective. Well, they're not huge events that are happening in the book. It's just everyday life of women in the 1900s, which is a perspective that's not always talked as much about. And because there are such small moments of love between sisters and family and friends, it inspires me to appreciate those moments more. Well, it taught me that not everything is as it seems. It can look amazing and so intense, and like you really want to be a part of such a world, but there's a lot of things lying underneath that might really change your perspective on that.
Would you recommend it to others?
Yes, definitely, I really would. Yeah, it's quite a literary masterpiece, I think.
The divide is about the dynamic between the West and the Global South, and how the Global South, we're not helping the Global South through, like, it's sort of a delusion to think that we are constantly funding the Global South to develop, while in actual reality, he explains, we take a lot of money from the Global South, and just us giving money back isn't like a goodwill thing. It's actually just a sort of, how would you say, like a band-aid on a very big gaping wound. It sort of counters the narrative of that the world is improving in the Global South and that the West is helping these countries improve, while in actual reality, the life expectancy has maybe increased slightly, but like poverty has in many countries actually declined. And the only places where it has improved were the places where the West didn't intervene, actually. I would highly recommend the book for everyone to read. If you're interested in these subjects, I would highly recommend it because it summarizes everything so well, and it actually explains the basics. And once you have read it, you know, a lot of doors open for you. It becomes a lot of other academic books, for example, become really understandable because it gives a really good basis in a very easy to read way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.